everybody. So this is a story or a video. Sorry, this is a video that I've been wanting to do for years, and I keep backing out because I haven't been fully ready because I've been scared. So you don't do things when you're afraid; you just push them off. I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago before suicide prevention's month was starting and before I created my fundraiser, and I was like, this is the year. This is the year I'm going to make the video and I'm going to tell my full story. I'm going to do it. And she was like, that's amazing. If you don't end up doing it, it's still amazing, because the fact that you want people to know, the fact that you know that it's important to speak your story is amazing. If you don't do it, it's fine. Still amazing. Thank you. Kept putting it off again. Tomorrow's National Suicide Prevention Day. Hadn't done the story yet. Didn't think I was going to do it again because I'm not good with words. I wasn't sure how to tell my story without it being like some sob story or being the victim or something. I don't know. I came up with all these excuses. And then we got an email today from To Write Love in Her Arms. It goes out to the people who are doing the fundraisers. They'll send us like snippets of blogs and resources and stuff. And today came with basically a challenge, and it said, put your story out there. Tell your story. It doesn't have to be public. You can write a letter to yourself. Just tell your story. And I was like, all right, universe, apparently we're doing this. Apparently this is what we're doing. So if this video is super awkward, I'm really sorry. I don't really know how to do this. I just know that I always talk about how important your story is and why it matters and why you matter, and you should be able to put it out there without people judging you. But I never give my full story, so it's almost like I feel like a hypocrite, which it's not what I am. I know you have to be ready to tell your own story because it's very personal. But here we go. So I think that it would surprise a lot of people that I went to school with, especially high school, that I battle with depression and anxiety. But I think the depression is what will really surprise a lot of people, because I have always been that super smiley, bubbly girl. Not really outgoing, but just very bubbly, always had a smile, tried to help others feel better. I don't know, I just wasn't, like the sad girl in the corner. So I think it will surprise people that I dealt with depression for years. I still battle with it. But in high school, it started getting really, really bad. I mean, you're a teenager, you got all these hormones going on. And I feel like that's when depression really starts to kick in for a lot of people, because it's really easy to twist things in your head. And that's what depression does, is it twists things. And somebody could have said something and suddenly it's so twisted that it's miles away from what the person actually told you. But in your head, you've twisted it to be that's what they meant when they said that. They could have said the sky is blue, and I would have been like, oh, so it's my fault the sky is blue. You wanted it to be pink and I made it blue. That's not what they said. But that's how depression works, because depression doesn't care who you are. It just wants to get its claws in you. And that's the thing that I struggled with, is I had two parents that were still together when so many of my classmates' parents were divorcing, or one of the parents wasn't even around. I had this amazing little sister who would be willing to beat people up for me if they were mean to me. I had friends, a roof over my head. I never had to wonder when my next meal was coming from. And for some reason, I wasn't happy. But society says, brush it aside, move on. Somebody has it worse than you. So that's what I did. I didn't know how to tell people without sounding like I was playing the victim, because I had this good life. So why did I need to be sad? So I stayed quiet. Didn't know what to do. And it just kept building and building and building. And I felt like I was gonna burst. And I just felt like I was gonna break, and I didn't know what to do. And I needed something. So instead of doing what I should have done, reaching out to somebody, telling them I was struggling, talking to my parents, I found a coping mechanism. And that coping mechanism was self-harm. I started hurting myself because it made the pain that I was feeling on the inside on the outside. And it made me feel more validated. It helped. But with that helping came a different scenario of I had to hide more and I had to lie more. because I had to make sure that the clothes I was wearing were not going to give me away. Because I didn't want people to know, because I was ashamed, because society says that people have it worse. We don't talk about stuff like this. Suck it up, buttercup. So I did. For a good year to 2 years, I did this, and I hid. No one found out. I was really good at pretending. I became really good at smiling and letting people think that things were fine while I was crying myself to sleep. And finally, I started scaring myself. I didn't want to die, but these really dark thoughts started coming in because things just weren't getting better for me. Great life, family, all these things. And still, I felt worthless, that I wasn't good enough. And it was just building and building and building. And my dark sky was suddenly black. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I reached out to a friend. And the friend was going through some stuff, and I told them that I was having these thoughts, and they asked me what I had to be sad about. We were kids. It's hard to tell, your 15-year-old friend that you're struggling with depression and these dark thoughts. And that just made me go, you're right. What do I have to be sad about? This is stupid. I have nothing to be sad about. So I continued. And I'm like, I'm not reaching out again. I'm done, because you're right. This is ridiculous. But just because someone says something and you're like, yeah, this is ridiculous, doesn't mean that the depression goes away. It just says, see, I told you. Told you nobody cares. Nobody cares. Now you look like you're asking for attention. And so went along. My family found out, which is a whole nother thing that we will never go through, because that's like personal between all of us. And I don't know how you're supposed to handle something when your baby girl comes to you not comes to you, but you find out that they're hurting themselves, that they're so sad. You probably wonder all these things like, what did you do wrong and stuff? Because it's what your brain does sometimes. And we talked about it. I stopped hurting myself. I didn't get help or anything, because I feel like we were living in a time where that was very like, no, you move on. You move on. Someone knows about it now, but you move on. We just move on. But because people knew now and were keeping a closer eye on me and we were moving on, doesn't mean that depression went away. The depression was still there. It was just more of, you can't disappoint somebody. You can't do this. You can't relapse. You can't do these things. You've got to go on. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So that's what I was. I was fine. Skipped to college. Things started getting worse again. I didn't know how to handle being an adult. I was never good at school. I felt like a failure. All these things. Despite all my family is telling me they love me, how good I'm doing, how proud of me they are for going to get my teaching degree. All these things, my brain is going, they're lying. They're lying to you. They have to say these things because they're your family. Because that's what depression does, is it lies. It lies hardcore. So when things started getting worse, I didn't tell anybody. I had some online friends that I would talk to. I had my music. I had been introduced to write Love on Her Arms in high school. And so I clung to these things to help myself. Because despite how To Write Love in Her Arms was telling me to open up and that society needed to stop making us feel bad for having our feelings validated, I still was just like, nope. I come from a small town. We don't talk about this stuff. No. Fast forward again, I moved, graduated college, moved out of my hometown to where I am now, had started a new job as the insurance agents at the insurance agency. And things were bad again because, I never got proper help because it was fine. And not getting help is nobody's fault. Just big disclaimer. If I would have told somebody that I was still struggling, like if I had told my parents, they would have pushed me to get help. I'm positive. And it's just because it was so pounded into my brain that society tells you, no, we don't talk about this stuff. You're fine. Somebody's got it worse than you. So things were worse again. And I just remember driving home from Springfield, where I'd been at the main office doing some training. And I just remember I just started bawling. I just started bawling because other stuff was going on in my life. And I did not handle it. And I needed someone to talk to, but we don't talk about these things. So what am I supposed to do? So I called like the first therapy place that I had found in Washington, and I'm sobbing to this receptionist who was so nice, and I'm probably not the first person to cry to her, and she got me hooked up with a therapist. Almost didn't go to my first therapy appointment because, again, society says this isn't fine. What do you have to be sad about? You've got a job, you've got 401k, you've got health insurance, you've got a place to live, like what, you've got great friends. Why are you like this? Person doesn't care. And I did. And I'm so glad that I went to therapy, because there is a difference between your family and your friends telling you that you're good, that you matter, that they love you, and a therapist helping you work through issues. There's this big difference between, you know, a therapist telling you that you matter, because they're like this third party. They don't know you. They don't have an emotional connection. So it's a big difference. I always thought that I wanted a therapist who was basically going to coddle me, who was going to hold my hand and tell me it was going to be okay. I did not get that. And I am so glad I did not get that. My therapist is amazing. I have been seeing her for over 2 years now, I think. And she throws back why at me a lot. Why do you feel like that? Who said that? Why? And it really makes me think. Nobody said that. Nobody did that. I always remember so many times, even to this day, I'll be like, logically, I know these things, but my brain says no. Like, I know that that's not the correct thing, but my brain says, yeah, that's the way that it is. And she helps me work through so many things and just makes me feel validated and important, because, again, some third party coming in and telling you things, they stick with you better than family. I don't make the rules. That's just usually how it goes. She also mentioned, because talking was great, but she also was like, you know, you've been battling this for years. Talk to your doctor about medication. Oh, great. Now I'm going to be that girl who goes to therapy and gets put on crazy pills. I'm really glad that I have a doctor that I really trust and I'm open with, because if I had a doctor whose like bedside manner wasn't amazing, I don't think I would have been like, hey, my therapist wanted medication. We talked. And she's like, yes, absolutely. Let's try something. Like, this isn't how you're supposed to be going through life. You're not supposed to go through life pretending and just feeling awful all the time. That's not the way that it's supposed to be. So we put me on medication and we adjusted the dosage up a couple of times. I've been on medication for 2 years, pretty much like right after I started therapy. It's magic. Medication is not for everybody. If you have other ways of dealing with things and it works, that's amazing. Therapy alone and having a great support system was not enough for me. My brain still was twisting things, chemical imbalances, whatever. I remember driving, because apparently driving is what I do, and have my aha moments, and just going, I feel good. I actually feel good. I don't remember the last time I had a crying spell over nothing. I don't remember the last time I just felt worthless. I feel good. This is how I'm supposed to be going through life. And that's not to say things are rainbows and butterflies all the time now. I still have days where I don't want to get out of bed. I still have days where I cry for no reason at all. They're so far and few in between anymore that I am able to live the life I'm meant to live. I am able to hang out with people. I don't wear a mask anymore. I still have my work mask because I have to deal with people. And I still am an introvert and I don't like dealing with people, but it's my job. But I don't have to fake things anymore. I actually really enjoy life. I still have moments where I'm just like, Cherokee, the clock is ticking here. When are you gonna do stuff? And my therapist will help you point out, you own your own place. You pay your own bills. You have a dog that you take care of and survives. You have a job with a 401k and retirement and benefits. You're doing pretty darn amazing. Who says at 32 you have to, 31, I just tried to age myself by another year, guys. 31, that you have to have A, B, and C done. It's okay if you only have B done. It's okay if you only have A or C. You don't have to have all these things done. Society lies to you. And that's why I'm so grateful for Try Love in Our Arms, because it's trying to say, society, you're wrong. We should be able to talk about things, because it doesn't, if your neighbor's house burns down, that's tragic. And yes, their lives are kind of awful right now. Doesn't mean that your feelings are not valid. That's what we do, is we're always like, somebody out there has it worse than me. That could be true, and it probably is true. But that doesn't mean that what you're going through isn't tough. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to talk about it. And I think that's also why we have problems, is because maybe we know friends that are going through these major things that are terrible, and you don't want to bother them with your petty little problems. Guess what, though? Those problems are affecting you. They're affecting your life. They're your problems. And that means that it's a valid reason to feel the way that you're feeling. So I highly suggest, if you've ever thought about reaching out for help, it will change your life. Because sometimes having that third party to talk to is so much different than talking to family and friends. Because we kind of like censor things when we talk to family and friends. We just do it, even I still do it to this day, because you don't want to worry them, because there's that different emotional connection. And so I still do it to this day, despite how I'm a big advocate for telling your truth and living your story. It's hard. So having that third person that you can be open and vulnerable to is life-saving. And so I urge you to reach out and get the help, because your story is important. And whether it takes years to tell the world about it, whether you never tell the world about it, you are valid and you are seen, and you deserve to be heard. If it's not by the world, by a therapist, by just someone that you can confide in, so that way you learn that you don't have to be in the darkness. There's a light at the end of that tunnel, and you deserve to be in that light. You deserve to be surrounded by that light. This video definitely went on longer. I'm really proud of myself, though. Didn't actually end up crying. I was really concerned I was gonna cry, because it's emotional thinking about how awful I used to feel, because depression told me these lies, and how I feel now. It's like I'm a completely different person. And it's amazing to look back and just think about that, because I was sad. I was so sad. It just felt worthless. And now I'm good. I'm good 99 days out of 100. I have my moments, but for the most part, I'm good, because I finally decided to take that next step. And I hope that maybe whoever's watching this, if you've needed that little push, please do. You don't have to tell the world that you're seeing a therapist. You don't have to tell the world that you're on medication. If you want to, awesome, because medication, if you just talk and reach out to somebody, you will not regret it. Disclaimer, you don't always find the perfect therapist on the first try. If you've had a few sessions with therapists and you just aren't feeling it, you're not comfortable, trust me, they know. They know that you're not comfortable. So it means you're not going to be opening up as honestly. And don't go into thinking you need a specific kind of therapist, because sometimes you get surprised and it's the best thing that's ever happened to you. So it's okay to try out different therapists, because you just don't know what you need going in. You just know you need to talk, which is great. But yeah, so heads up, sometimes you don't get lucky and get your main therapist on the first go around, but you will get there and you will not regret it. If you can, please donate to my fundraiser. It would be amazing. If you can't, it's fine. Spread awareness, maybe share my fundraiser. Just reach out to people, let them know that they're not alone. Video's gone way on longer than I wanted, so I hope that everyone has a wonderful day and that you know how important you are.